Hey everyone, welcome back to Field Stories. And today I'm joined by a very special guest who we rarely see on the show. Nick Smith is in the house. Oh my God, Nick, welcome back to Field Stories.
Well, yes, it's been a while always. It seems to be every time I come back, it's been a while. It's been a bit hectic, inconsistent is key, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, but we knew that was coming. We knew we were braced for it. So myself and Michela, who is we're actually recording this on I'm back in Peru again in my world travels. Somehow I managed to keep up with the show normally, but you don't. But
no, it's impressive.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm back in Peru, and but we're recording this in the afternoon here in the Americas, and that means that Michela is currently working. She's probably handling a turtle or in the mud right now or something, so she's not able to join us. So it's just going to be or a snake or something, so yeah, she's busy, so it's just going to be the two of us today. And actually, you are going to be our guest as well today, special guest host and guest Nick Smith. It's almost full circle. It's almost like the first episode all around again. The two of us. So I mean, I guess today we might as well just go ahead and jump into it, man, because we can talk about where you are now, but that kind of leads to where you've been all summer in the north, because you've been traveling a lot. So why don't you just give me and give all the listeners and viewers a real summary of where you've been, what you've been doing, and how it's been for you.
Yeah, 100%. Well, so I'm back at university now in Falmouth in Cornwall. So in the UK, enjoying it's cooling down very quickly, rapidly. So I don't think I experienced less than 20 degrees for about 8 weeks basically. But so just to give some context, I was in Suriname with Dick Locke, who was one of the guests on the podcast and in previous probably about 9 months ago, actually. It was a while back now, actually. Yeah. And we got chatting after that, and he very kindly invited me out to Suriname to get involved with all the crazy stuff that they get up to. It was mind-blowing experience. I mean, wow, Suriname is crazy. I mean, the abundance of wildlife is just mesmerizing. I mean, it's just, honestly, I was completely blown away by the amount of animals you could see. I mean, we'd go out and 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 snakes in one night, sort of thing. It was really, really special to be involved with that. But I was doing promotional video content for Dick's company, Unlock Nature, and they'll be coming out very, very soon. So filmed, edited, and now given to Unlock Nature, who are going to be posting that very, very soon. So keep an eye out for that. I'm looking forward to hopefully helping them get some more people involved, because I mean, Suriname's a great country. You have to go there, really. It's I know you'll be heading there at some point, hopefully.
That's the plan. That's the plan. Next year's the plan.
Everyone's hopefully getting on board with that. And so that was my sort of taste of South America and the Amazon rainforest. It was what I'd call, it was more carnage, really. It was just, more expeditions like kayaking. It will actually be my field story. It will be from Suriname. So that one we got to wait for. Actually, Chris, am I allowed to do one from both Suriname and Uganda? Is that cheating?
Sure, why not? You can do that. Yeah. So we'll I mean, we can do that at the end if you want. Yeah, do one for both. Why not?
So that leads me on nicely to where I was in Uganda for my first time, actually, and it was epic. I know you've been out there, and it's just an incredible country. My God, the people are amazing. Just the landscapes, the climate. I mean, my God, the climate is perfect. I mean, what?
Yeah, I told you. It's perfect, right? Perfect weather.
It was just, oh man. And then obviously the wildlife just speaks for itself. We had an hour with the shoebill, we had gorillas, chimpanzees. I mean, come on. It was just incredible. And it was actually my first time running a photography tour in conjunction with one of the local guides, Fenny, who is a legend. Shout out to Fenny from Expedite Wildlife Tour. Wow, what a legend. Love it. And Yeah, wow, we just had a great time. Had 6 guests with me. It was my first time ever running something where, I was in charge. So a little bit different for me to have to, organize things and make things happen. But yeah, really, really enjoyed that part of it. And I think it was a success. 3 people have already said they want to come back and join me on a tour, hopefully to Suriname. So it all kind of links together, And yeah, just in general, a great summer, and one I'm very, very thankful for. And
Yeah, I mean that sounds amazing, man. And congratulations on that. Yeah, and I guess in terms of like the questions that would come to my mind for it, yeah, I guess like you said, I've been to Uganda, haven't been to Suriname yet, but obviously I spent a lot of time in South America here now, and
yeah.
I guess one of the things that's always interesting to me is when I travel is just comparing areas, looking for differences, looking how, whether it be environmental, whether it be the like the habitat, whether it be the wildlife, whether it be people, whether it be conservation, like those differences are really interesting, and it's what makes nature complicated. What makes conservation complicated, but it's what makes our planet amazing and beautiful. So I guess for you, now having been, quite a bit of time here in Peru with us, and then now I know you've been to Africa before, so it's not your first African country, and now you've at least 2 countries in South America, 2 countries in Africa. Like, what stands out to you in the differences? I guess maybe between Peru and Suriname, and then maybe between Uganda and the other areas you've been in Africa, and then maybe between them. Like, what stands out to you? And I guess I'm particularly interested because you obviously you love nature, about wildlife, but as we said, like, you're not coming from the biology first perspective, of course, from the wildlife photography and everything perspective. So I'd love to hear your takes and your input on the differences and the comparisons.
Yeah, great question. So the first thing that comes to mind is definitely intercontinental one is Suriname. Well, maybe not so much, but Suriname's obviously very much an up and coming country. I mean, Unlock Nature, basically, there's a guy, Steve O Suriname, who's a very good nature guide too. Outside of that, there's not many people doing nature tours other than, Dick has got the kind of, the control on the market there. And yeah, you can really, really tell. I mean, I went up to one of these places called Brownsburg. It's a mountain in Suriname. And essentially, I was up there on my own because I did 2 tours back to back. So with one tour guide, and then they went home with the guests, and then another group came, and I stayed overnight on the mountain. I basically had it to myself. I mean, it was I was basically completely alone in the Amazon with like no one around. It was just incredible. And I think that's the biggest difference to Uganda, where it's very highly tourist motivated, and the country's built around the ecotourism world. So every time, the guides, basically, there's quite set routines, if you like. There's itineraries that are strategically followed by pretty much all the guides. Really, they do have variations. Like, for example, I think we saw the same, like, I'm going to say rival tour company. It's not, another tour company that was in front of us driving, and we saw them pretty much every day on the tour because, they did the chimp tracking, and then they went to Queen Elizabeth National Park, and then to Bwindi to do the gorilla trekking, and we were kind of all doing that same loop. So that's one thing I've noticed was very, very different is, Suriname felt like it's a lot of, it's your own experience. It's kind of a bit of an untapped area, whereas Uganda, it's seamless in its efforts because it's well known what is done and how you do it. So they both have their pros and cons for sure, and that's one thing I would notice in those ones. I think one area I would definitely notice between Uganda and South Africa is certainly there's a lot fewer areas in Uganda, it feels like, where there's going to be tourists, if that makes sense. So there's like the real highlight areas, and it feels like everyone's going to the same sort of places because there was quite a lot of heavy congestion in certain places, which obviously it's not the greatest thing to look at. For example, at one of our lion sightings there was about 25 other vehicles there with us. Wow. And, okay. It's no fun to be there. We actually shout out again to Fenny. We actually made the decision to leave that area. That sighting wasn't for us. I mean, I admit we enjoyed it for like 5-10 minutes. We took a few photos, videos, whatever, and we were like, right, this just isn't on, and we got out of there. And that's the one thing the biggest thing I noticed from my time in South Africa was there was a lot less of that. The congestion of vehicles seemed to be less. Obviously, I didn't have like monopoly over like each area, so I couldn't tell you if that's consistent. But it certainly feels like, if there's a lion sighting in Uganda, everyone's going to hear about it and everyone's there. Whereas South Africa, it feels like a little bit more spread out in that way. So that was one thing. And then, in terms of Peru and Suriname, very, very difficult for me to judge that one, really, because obviously you guys are more on the conservation side of it. And, the research and scientific stuff, which I didn't do so much of when I was in Suriname. I mean, Dick has a wealth of knowledge and all the people who work for him. So, I asked lots of questions, managed to find out a lot about the conservation issues, but it's not something they're specifically doing. That one I think is more tough for me to
that's good. That's really interesting. And I guess, I mean, I think we were probably fortunate when we were in Uganda, but it probably maybe is the season that we were in Uganda. When we went on the safaris we did, because we did some safaris that were not part of our research. They were as a reward around team. And we got really lucky. We had very limited amount of people in the park compared to that. And I mean, I know the sightings, like when we did a sighting with the lions, we were the only vehicle there. And when we had a sighting with our leopard sighting, which was like an hour just sleeping right in front of us. There was one vehicle around us. That was it. So we were very fortunate.
What month were you in then?
These were in February and March, depending on the park we were at. So, I mean, in some ways there is people because they travel for the winter, but I suppose you're there in, maybe the summer when students want to travel. So, and
a bit more people.
So, yeah. So, but no, I can understand that. And I mean, that's, it's also, I mean, I'm curious what your impression was, on Uganda in terms of I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I know what struck me when I was there was this feeling of basically if you're not in a park, there's nothing, like obviously there is birds, there is some animals live anywhere pretty much, but you just don't see any real intact wildlife if it's not some kind of protected area. You realize there's virtually no land in the country that is not in some way used either for protection or for agriculture or industry. There's just nothing that's like untouched and unexplored. And you really realize that, at least that was my impression. Very few areas that are untouched in that country.
Well, I had the exact same opinion in South Africa. And I feel like it's maybe quite a big thing across Africa as a continent with wildlife. I mean, I remember, seeing some videos and documentaries and things, and people were just suggesting that, all of it is basically every animal is managed to some degree within Africa. That's actually, going back to the differences, really different in Suriname. I mean, it's 93% rainforest across the country, and you notice that instantly. In fact, I remember because I actually got the ferry across from Guyana because it was way cheaper for me to fly to Guyana than get the ferry across to Suriname. And as soon as you hit Suriname, my God, it's just green, and you're seeing all of your classic birds like egrets, terns, different like Amazonian birds like instantly as soon as you're in the country. And you're on the main highway stretch, and there's just, you have the chance of seeing some scarlet ibis and some flamingos on the sidewalk, like on the not on the sidewalk, but as you're driving, and basically you're in it straight away, and you don't have to be so much, even some of the Pepper Pot Nature Park actually is right near. It's 20 minutes away from Paramaribo, which is the capital of Suriname, and it's where Dick and Unlock Nature do a lot of their tours out of. And you can find all of the cats that you can find in South America in that park, and it's 20 minutes from the capital city. It's absolutely crazy. They have jaguar sightings, ocelot, margay. They have all of them, like puma, jaguarundi. They're all there, and giant anteaters. These are all in the park, and it's literally 20 minutes from the main city, and that's just incredible.
Yeah, that's nuts. I mean, I think that is very different, and I think it's also a really good, example of, there is a lot of depressing, sad, but also real news about deforestation in the Amazon, and it's very true, and it's a big problem, and we've seen it so much recently with the fires, and it's happening all the time. But I think that it's also should be encouraging what you're saying to the fact that we still do have a lot of natural areas in South America. The Amazon still has a lot of wildlife and habitat that exists in a very natural state. And, if you look at what's happened in Africa for a variety of reasons, both related to cultural and also related to things that are, also the way wildlife works in Africa, bigger migrations, bigger species, bigger habitat, bigger territories. I think it should be a bit of a wake-up call for us to act in South America while we still have all this, because we don't want to get to the point where, to be completely honest, the Amazon would never be able to function if it got to the state that Africa's wildlife is at. If the amount of fragmentation and disturbance occurred in the Amazon that has happened in Africa, we would lose the functionality of the Amazon as we know it completely. So yeah, it should be a bit of we should cherish what we have, but it also should be a wake up call that we don't want to get to that point.
No, absolutely. Really all animals are completely managed, aren't they? I mean, if you go into a game park, and the people who are running that game park are like, okay, well, this year we've got 50 too many lions, or and there's 200 too many buffaloes. We've got to either move them on, or unfortunately got to cull them off, or whatever. We got to maintain these strict ecosystem hierarchies, and it's a very interesting system, one I don't know too much about, but.
Quite complicated too, right? And it's quite controversial. Without going into any details of names and people that would get anyone or myself in trouble, because we want to go there again. We love Uganda. But I would just say that I did speak to some people that was there without naming any names. And there was definitely differing views on management practices. And some people think this works, some people don't. And of course, the management practices can be motivated by conservation. They can also be motivated by tourism, because of course the number one thing with tourism is big mammals, but sometimes the populations, what's best for them isn't best for other groups of wildlife, and it's complicated. And I think that's one of the things that is very unique about Africa, because there's so many large mammals and so many move in such big groups that really makes it complicated. More so than South America, because of course South America has big mammals, but we don't have elephants, we don't have giraffes, we don't have hundreds of antelope everywhere, thousands of antelope. It's a different environment, So it's a different conservation problems really as well. And the other thing I think that was really, you just have to accept it when you're in Africa. I'm sure all of our listeners who've been there know this, but maybe they don't. Some of them, I'm not sure. One of the things that you have to just learn to accept is that you're going to go to parks that don't have a species you'd expect to see, and it's just gone. It's just extinct. And they're like, well, we might be able to bring them back, but right now they're gone. And that's just, but you're like, they were there. That's the thing that's crazy. It's not like you're going to a park and like, oh, no, we never had rhinos. Oh, no, we had rhinos. They're just gone. Wow. And that's really, basically every park that you would have in Uganda. And again, there could be someone who would be like, well, actually, they weren't here, so please give me the room for this. But basically, every park that you would go to in Uganda should have rhinos, should have elephants, should have giraffes, should have everything. And that's not the case. I mean, and that's not a criticism of the country. That's just the reality we're in today. And I think that's also really striking when you go to a park and you find out it's not there, but you find out the reason it's not there is because it's just extinct right now. Wow, it's quite a hit, and it's something that I don't think that would be talked about, because obviously a lot of tour guides wouldn't just promote that to kind of make the tourists feel bad, but it's the reality that there should be rhinos in all the parks, there should be giraffes in all the parks, there should be elephants in all the parks, and there should also be
I was just going to say quickly with the rhino. So yeah, just to give everyone a context of that, there's actually only one place in Uganda you can see rhinos in the semi-wild, which is at Ziwa Rhino Sanctuary. Which, to be honest, they're doing a great job of rehabilitating. And I was talking to the guys who are running this, the guides, and they're actually they're trialing reintroductions in other parks too, which is great. So that someday, hopefully very soon, there will be rhinos in other parks. But essentially, there's just a 70-kilometer area of fenced area where the rhinos are actually living, and it's an amazing experience to go there and talk to them. You can do a pretty cool experience, like a rhino tracking experience, where you find them on foot and you go and learn about them. But in all honesty, they're not wild. I mean, you go there, you get your photos of the rhino and the videos of it, but that's not what it's about. It's more about the education. Like, I wanted to emphasize that to everyone who I was with. It's like, I wouldn't, if I was you, I wouldn't go on social media and be like, oh, here's the rhino, a wild rhino I was photographing. And it's not about that. It's actually, they're doing a good job to hopefully in 5 years' time, we go to, Queen Elizabeth or Murchison's Falls National Park, and you go, oh, shit, that is a rhino over there. And then it's your first wild rhino, because I personally don't count that one as a wild rhino.
Totally. And that's why, we had a limited amount of time, because we were, obviously, research was our priority, different than your tour completely. But yes, we chose not to go to that because of that, because we felt like, well, they're not really. But yeah, it's still amazing. But it's also really interesting to talk a bit about. I'm curious where. Let me ask you before I give any comments or thoughts. But what were your experiences with the tracking of chimps and gorillas? Like, how did you feel? Like, where did you go? I'm curious. I think I know where you went for the gorillas. Bwindi, I assume.
Yeah, Bwindi.
But with the chimps, where did you go, and how did it go? What was your experience on that like?
Yeah, definitely. It's a really good question. So the chimps, we were at the Kibale National Park.
Okay. Yeah. I know that well. Yeah.
You went to Kibale, yeah?
We were researching right on the side of it, and we had those chimps come out naturally into our site without planning. So yeah.
Okay, well, we'll get into that in a minute. That sounds great. Basically the chimp tracking was it was carnage, to be honest. It was actual carnage. I mean, at some point,
is this your story, or is this your story?
No, it's not. It's not.
It's a bonus story. Yeah, okay.
Bonus one. I won't dwell on it too long, because I got the stories to come. But Kibale, it was absolute carnage. I mean, at one point, because you got the armed guards, we had 3 armed guards with us at all times, because it's actually, I think, for the elephants that are in the park as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
because they're completely habituated, and that's another thing we can talk about, is the unfortunate scenario where you have to be with habituated gorillas and chimps at this point. And I actually have a really fascinating point when I get to the gorillas about that. But the chimps is absolute carnage. I mean, compared to the gorillas, it's more of like a chilled community area where they're more relaxed and hanging out. With the chimps just running around. I mean, they were getting these crazy jackfruits, But what I liked about it is that the guides were very much like, the armed guards were like, stay back, do this, do that, whatever. But what I didn't like about it was we were with about like 5 or 6 other groups at one time. Okay. The chimp tracking, I reckon there might have been near on 30, 40 people in the forest at this time looking for these chimps, and we all happened upon the same chimps. I mean, whether that was intended or not, I don't think it was intended, but that's what happened. And and suddenly, like, at one point, I'd completely lost my group, and I'm the tour leader basically, and I've like lost my group because it's like so chaotic energy, and the guards are like, go this way, go that way, and they're telling you to go away. And then at one point, everyone stopped, and the guard stopped, and he said, go to me, and I was just following this chimp, and he said, continue following it. I just kind of froze and just did it, and I just realized I was just on my own with this chimp, and I was like, this isn't normal, this isn't right. I was like, I should be running after this chimp. I was like, this is crazy. I was like, what is going on? It was it was just absolute chaos. And I'm not sure how I feel about that particular part of it. I mean, when they were relaxed and sitting down and eating, and you can tell if an animal's eating, they tend to be quite happy and relaxed, right? So it's just pretty normal for them at this point. I mean, that's the conversation, is it, that they are habituated?
Yeah.
And with the gorillas specifically, so part of so one thing I didn't mention earlier is we're actually filming a documentary at the same time as doing the tour. So I actually had a film crew with me, and we're doing a film on how poaching is being replaced by ecotourism in Burundi. So we visited a lot of community members who they're doing ecotourism now in order to prevent poaching. So part of that is there's a reformed poachers group. So they've now changed 83 people from poaching in Burundi National Park to now doing sustainable practices like beekeeping, like goat farming, these type of things. And that's really, really useful and really good. So that's a massive thumbs up for ecotourism. And we also talked to a group called the Retired Rangers. So Fenny, our guide, his dad was actually the part of the founding members of the habituation group. So basically, he was the first person to habituate gorillas. So he was fascinating to talk to. Fascinating. We interviewed him, got some really nice insights on it, and just how much work goes into it. I mean, my God. It takes 2.5 years roughly to habituate the gorillas, and the first month is you're just calling at them from quite close, just to let them know you're around, and then from then on they go into the gorilla troop, if you like, and they get attacked every day for months and months. They get attacked, and they have to kind of firm the attacks, because they can't go back at them, or because that's going to completely defeat the object. So they have to kind of submit and firm the attacks every single day, and just eventually gaining their trust, and these are all the things that have to be done in order for us to be able to conserve gorillas. Because I mean, that's something to discuss maybe in a future episode with someone who maybe knows a little bit more, or if you have some insights, I'd be interested too. But how conservation for gorillas and chimps seems to be only possible because of habituation, and that leads to ecotourism, which prevents other people from killing these animals.
I think it's a really you described it well, and I mean that's exactly basically the same feedback that I got from Julia, who was who manages the partner NGO that we worked with in Uganda. I mentioned I was at Kabale with our team, and her station, her conservation area borders Kabale, to the point that you mentioned the elephants, so they actually put a boardwalk in place on the side of the park to keep the elephants from coming out and destroying farmland outside of the park. So we were walking on that boardwalk, and literally if you take technically I was in the park some days, which don't tell the government, because I didn't pay an entry fee, but realistically my foot was in the park, because it's you're on the border of it. And that's why the chimps can just come out. So one day we were just it was before lunch, it was 11 o'clock, and we were chilling, and I heard somebody say the chimps are here, and before you know it, there's just about 15 chimps just walking through the by the kitchen of where we're. And this is the area where we were getting ready to have lunch. It's just that's their area. They do what they want, right? But I mean, speaking to her, because she was involved at the very beginning of habituating the Kabale chimps.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's the same idea, and it's exactly what you're bringing up with it, which is to say that it's good and bad, and sometimes the rangers do good things, sometimes they probably do things they shouldn't do, and some of it does have to do with the tourists and the groups and the guides and the payment they get, and it's a lot of gray. It's not black and white, but I agree with you. I think it'd be great to have someone else on who could speak to it more. Although finding people who can speak to it who would be willing to speak freely is also complicated. But I guess I would just say, because you don't want to upset people, you don't want to cause trouble, and you don't want to burn bridges. It's complicated. It's political, and I don't just mean politics, but I mean interpersonal politics can be complicated. But I think the takeaway is, in some areas, and Uganda is a good example, a country like that that's there's so much pressure on wildlife, like we talked about. I think it's the lesser of the two evils, because if you don't have it and poaching eliminates it or destroys the habitat, or both, well, it's gone. So between those two options, certainly the option of this tourism is good. And I guess the big question is it impacting their life as animals? Are they having lower reproductive stress? Or success? Are they having greater stress? And it appears that based on their reproductive in their population, that they seem to be doing okay. So you could take that metric.
The population seem to be going up in gorillas.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, it seems like they are habituating in a way that isn't causing really obvious negative impacts to them that we can see. But again, I say that without having done extensive research myself.
Exactly. But also, I'll add to this. You've just reminded me of a key point with this. Actually, is only is it 7 or 9 groups of gorillas have been habituated in Burundi, right?
Yeah,
there's 400 total gorillas, and we visited a troop that had 17 members, and that was the largest that they habituated out of all of the 7 or 9. I can't remember the exact number, right? Yeah. So say average 10 to 12 members per family, if you like.
Yeah.
We're maybe looking at 100 total gorillas are habituated. So there's still 300, say. Give me freedom for numbers.
And I believe that's a similar management practices in other areas where the chimps are habituated as well, where they try to keep a group that they trust, that they know, in an area that they go, and then after that they try to not disturb all of them. So yeah, I think this is intended to be a way to generate revenue and protection without completely destroying any natural behavior.
Yeah.
As we talked about in much of Africa, you're right, it's not just Uganda and South Africa, it's much of the continent. Outside of maybe the tropical, like central western tropical zones, like Congo and Gabon is a bit more wild, but a lot of these more savanna, mixed savanna type countries, it's the reality. A lot of it's managed, and a lot of it's finding a balance between how to generate revenue in a sustainable way versus what impact does it have in their natural life. So that's very, very cool. I mean, I think it's very interesting to see those different countries, and you made a really good comparison on the differences in the amount of like pristine wilderness versus the opposite in Africa. So
yeah,
very cool, man. Very, very cool. And I'm sure for you, I mean, I guess the final question I'll ask, and then we'll get to your field stories, because I wanted to ask this earlier. There's so much to talk about, but this is going to be a lot to squeeze into an answer that won't be 20 minutes, but maybe you could try. I guess for you now, you're going into your last year of university. I should know as a friend, but
last year.
I got it right. Yeah. So, I mean, with you now entering into your final year, you're at that lovely point that students have where they're like, well, what the hell do I do next? So you're almost there now, so you can see that coming like a train.
This is on topic for what I've been thinking about recently.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, I doubt for sure, because nobody even knows at any point in their life, and especially when you're your age, nobody knows for sure. And it's only going to be one step of the future anyways. But I guess what I would wonder is, more specifically, how did your experiences this year in Suriname and Uganda, what did you take from it? What influence did it have? And how do you feel now coming out of it as compared to before?
Yeah, great. Really good question again. So, essentially, I think I'm, from this trip, or the 2 trips combined, I'm definitely moving more away from traditional wildlife photography and filming. What got me into it was a love for taking pictures of animals and making beautiful clips of it, which I still enjoy. If you just look at my Instagram, it's what I do still. I that's a big part of it. But I'm moving more away from that and towards the people who are on the ground level making conservation efforts, and like how I'm still in, because you mentioned I'm at university still. I'm still working out how I can make that most beneficial leap, if you like. I want to bring the stories that people are, or not even necessarily the stories, but the efforts that people are doing in conservation areas, key conservation areas around the world, like Suriname and Uganda. The 2 places I've been have very different ways of doing things, and I just want to be able to promote that in a sustainable way that doesn't overkill the ecotourism world. I'm finding it ever challenging to find a balance for promoting it. I want to do ecotourism. I think it's great, and I think the more support these people can get is amazing, whilst not overkilling it and having the problems that some places fine where, you know, you've got a tiger with 400 people looking at it, or, you know, it's a real tough balance. And I think I'm going away from, like I said, just going off on a trip for myself and coming back with nice images. And I more want to see, like, how can I actually, you know, help a little bit more. And I've had some really interesting conversations with one of my university lecturers about it's very important that the people who are like allowing us to take photos, videos in other countries actually get to see that benefit, whether they actually get to, you know, see the film I'm making. So, for example, I think I'm going to definitely go down the filmmaking route in a more heavy route. I think I've directed this film and I really enjoyed it. I think that's something I can give, is more storytelling and approach in that way. And I think I want to make sure that they can also see the films that I'm making or other people are making. And that one's quite a tough one to do. But what I really like, the last thing I'll say on this is an example of someone. So she's called Ellie Stones. She was on my course 4 years ago, graduated, or 5 years ago, whenever. She did a project called The Pangolin Man. She made a film on the Pangolin Rescue Center, which I was fortunate enough to visit whilst I was there, which was an amazing experience. And she did a whole documentary on this guy, and it won some really, really good awards that I can't remember off the top of my head. But they ran a campaign where they did a bicycle-powered, like, solar cinema in the local community, Bundi, which is where it was based. And, you know, everyone could see that and be like, wow, okay, we can do conservation as well. Like, you know, it's really, I think it's really powerful to be able to showcase, you know, because a lot of the time we're talking a lot about, like, you know, Westerners going to Africa, for example, and then coming back, and then all you're doing is you put it on the BBC, or, you know, you shove it on YouTube for UK or USA visitors. No one in the countries where it matters actually can do anything with that. So that's where I'm heading towards, is, you know, trying to be a little less selfish with it, really, and more like, what can I actually do, you know?
Yeah,
I'm
really
working that out. It takes a bit of time for me to figure that out, I think, but I'm on it.
I mean, I like that. That's a really, really good point you make. And I think the other point you made at the beginning is really interesting, is the idea that there is so much clustering of tourism in certain areas. And I think that, you know, obviously we talked about Uganda and the fact that unfortunately sometimes there's no choice in the matter there, but even Uganda, like, where we, not to chill for our project in January and February, but, like, we're planning going back, and we're going in a completely areas you never went to. You didn't go to the eastern part of the country. We're going to go to the east, and go, because there's no research. And why is there no research? Well, there's a few reasons. Historically, it was dangerous, etc. But honestly, one of the biggest reasons is there's no tourism. And why is there no tourism? Because there isn't the classic animals as much there, so no one cares. That's what it is. So one of the things that we're going to helping with is an NGO up in that area to try to develop their own ecotourism, to which of course helps more protection occur. And also, you know, I got fortunate enough to, about a month ago, to travel for about 10 days into, like, northern Peru. You know, this part of Peru, and I don't mean Iquitos, because that's well known, although Iquitos is mostly ayahuasca tourism, actually.
Sure.
But nonetheless, it's still tourism. But I mean, in central Peru, I was in, or central northern Peru, Tarapoto, that area, there is tourism. It does exist, but it's like 1/100th of what you get in Madre de Dios. If you think of what Tampapata and Manu get, it's like 1/100th, you know? And you know, obviously I'm very fortunate to be able to work in Tampapata and in Manu and Madre de Dios, and it's amazing. But even in that area, there's a section of it called Tahuamanu where it's just very understudied. There's no tourism. Nobody even knows. I mean, even some Peruvians are like, where's this? I've never even heard of this area. And then I bring this up to show you that, yeah, there's this tendency, because of how our economy and society works, for once something gets popular, it just gets bigger there instead of spreading. Yeah. And I think Suriname is a good example of how that's worked, but it's also an example of now it's growing. But I think it's really interesting what you mentioned, and maybe something that people listening who want to, you know, go on tours, and maybe people even like yourself who are saying, how can I help? Maybe finding areas that are less visited to help build that. maybe going and saying, I could do projects there. I could maybe, I'm not trying to tell you to do with your life, but maybe I could do projects in areas that have less tourism, because we're regularly contacted ourselves by people such as you, we talk, who want to come and do videos for us. And as I said to you, I would say, well, we have a lot of content, like it's already known where we are, whereas like Dick's didn't have as much because it's a newer place,
No, exactly.
And that's maybe some way that some people listening who are a bit more adventurous, a bit maybe even on a smaller budget, because some of these places are cheaper, might take on the idea of going to do tourism in less explored areas and help it develop. Because, a few $1,000s in a place with little tourism is probably going to have a big impact compared to a few $1,000s in Madrid. There's already millions of dollars coming in. And I'm not trying to talk people out of coming. I shouldn't say this because we want people to come. But you know what I'm saying? It's a very good point to spread that wealth. We talk about wealth distribution, and obviously, that's a bigger topic about rich people in the world, But it applies in all aspects of life. And if it concentrates only in one area, that doesn't spread it out. And I think that's really cool what you mentioned about ecotourism and how even that can occur even within the world of ecotourism. So yeah, very good point. I like that.
Yeah, well, I think the case in point is, every person I spoke to at university said, what did you do in the summer? Or like before I went, what are you doing this summer? I said, I'm going to Suriname, or I've been to Suriname. They're like, where? Is that in Asia?
Exactly.
See, that's perfect example of, maybe a few more people will now recognize that country just because of that. So,
and then of course the key with that though, and then the challenge for a place like Suriname developing is to take that growth that hopefully will occur and have it develop in a positive manner and a sustainable manner that doesn't just relate to more roads, more
seem to be doing great. Yeah, the moment.
True, and let's hope they continue to do that. And I mean, there's certain examples in the world. Costa Rica, in the last 20 years, has done a good job. A country like Botswana in Africa has done a great job. But we also have situations where, there's a lot of growth and a lot of tourism can be sometimes negative as well. So it's a balancing act, right? It needs management both on the the government level, but also the private level. And obviously, someone like Dick is going to expand, his operations in Suriname in an ethical manner. But not everybody is safe, so that's an important thing to remember. So yeah, it's complicated. I guess my closing statement, if you have one, my closing statement about this ecotourism is, just be open to trying new places and also do some research on where you're going, before you take it on. So, very cool. Thank you for that summary and update. So yeah, it feels like we've been chatting for 20 minutes, but we're already a ways in here. So, I don't know if you want to do both stories. Or if you think you can, if you were just dabbing, right? Because you're so cool.
Yeah, it's like that, but it won't.
Does anyone remember dabbing? My God, that was bad. Anyways, so I don't know if you want to do both stories or one story. It depends on how long they are.
We'll see. I'll start with the first one in Suriname, and then we'll see. The second one actually I can do within a minute. Literally, it's a very short one. It's I could just set the scene real quick and then say it. But anyway.
Go for it.
Okay, Chris. So so basically, I think I alluded to it once in many weeks ago when I joined you for one episode. I said I wasn't going to spoil it because I waited for this moment forever. But we're here. So basically, just to set the scene. So basically, obviously, I was with Dick at Unlock Nature, and essentially, I said I'd been on quite a lot of the photography tours, which makes sense, obviously. That's what I was there for. But I asked for a bit more of an adventurous tour, because I was like, I want something a bit more back to basic and a little bit more, not the luxuries and things. So anyway, Dick provided that. He was like, hey, Ash, one of the guides, has got a little kayak tour expedition. It's 4 days in the jungle. You're going to sleep in a hammock, kayak. Yeah, you get dropped off by boat, and then you kayak your way back to civilization. It's great. So I was like, hell yeah, get me on it. Anyway, so we're doing we get on the motorized boat, and Mike, who's one of the local Surinese guys, is lived in jungle his whole life. He's a right legend. So he drops us off by motorized boat about 30 kilometers into the Amazon, if you like, down what's called the Marataka River. So yeah, we're very remote. I mean, we're probably, I'd say, like 10, 15 kilometers away from any civilization, really. And that's, people who are living within the jungles. And then, 30, 40 kilometers away from any actual recognized town, if you like. Mm-hmm. And So we get off this motorized boat, we're unpacking all the stuff, everything's off. Mike zoomed off in his motorized boat, and there we are. So we got 4 days to make our way back to 30 kilometers down the river by kayak. And anyway, and then Ash is like, okay, let's move. I was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? It's like, it's about to hammer it down. And actually, like, he's lived in Suriname his whole life. He knows. You know, I've not known weather like Suriname. It's absolutely just hammers down, just out of nowhere.
Yeah, you didn't experience rainy season when you were in Peru, so yeah,
it's just as bad. I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine it's tropical.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like definitely the worst I'd experienced. Yeah. It was incredible, and so we rushed to get the hammocks up and the tarpaulin up, and failed miserably. We failed absolutely miserably. I mean, I barely even got the hammock up before it just absolutely belted down. I couldn't get the tarpaulin off. I was like, oh, this is a disaster. So we got it off eventually, and it was just hammock just soaked, and it's like, you know, it's getting dark already, and you're like, oh dear, great start. We're literally 15-20 minutes into the expedition, 4 days. And then we're like, oh god. And then so we're like, okay, well, we might as well, we're all soaked up anyway, we might as well, like, you know, unpack the kayaks and start blowing them up. They're inflatable ones. And we do the first two with, you know, a bit great difficulty, because I'm not particularly practical with stuff like that. So I, you know, struggled the way through trying to, like, blow up round. I put everything in the wrong way before the right way. You know how it is. It's just it took way too long, and Ash was cooking dinner and stuff. So me and the one guest who was with us, we struggled along nicely. We got it eventually. So we got 2 of them. So there's 3 of us. And key information here, I forgot to say, this actually should have been at the start, is there was a dog with us. So Ash brought his dog. That is literally part of the story. I need to seep that in. So basically, it was 3 kayaks, 3 people, and a dog. So the dog was going to be on Ash's kayak. Anyway, so we do the first 2 kayaks, no problem, absolutely fine. And then we get all the third one out, and it's missing all of the inside. No, sorry, the outside. Sorry. It's missing all of the outside. It's just the inflatable tube in the inside. And we're like, it's not a kayak, it's an air mattress. Like, this is ridiculous. So Ash is like, okay, well, I'm going to go, like, you know, I'll consider reaching out with the, like, you know, the satellite phone. It's not, we don't use it for emergencies, really. We want to, you know, try and, but, you know, it's kind of a bit messed up to do a 4-day kayak thing with, you know, 2 kayaks and an air mattress, and he forgot the satellite phone. So we're like, oh no, there's no satellite phone. So we're like, okay, so not only now are we not able to get a kayak, it's like, if there's any sort of issue, we're screwed. We got, like, what the heck are we gonna do? We're like 30 k's out, we're like half the equipment we need, and I'm like, oh lord. So like, not to think too much about, you know, the ramifications, and stepping ever more carefully through the jungle. I'm like, oh my god, thinking, what the hell do I do? What are we going to do for 4 days? Anyway, so, oh, poor Ash, man, honestly. So the first morning we set off at like 4 a.m. because, you know, it gets really hot as well in Suriname, as people may be aware or not, but it gets super, super hot. So you want to do most of your kayaking early morning, right? And so we set off bright and early. After packing away our drenched clothes and hammocks and everything, you know, we're on about 2 hours sleep, and me and the guest are kayaking away nice and happily, whilst Ash is on the air mattress, literally floating along the water in this air mattress, and it's utterly insane. I'm gonna have to leave some clips below that I took. It's honestly, it's ridiculous to see.
Yeah.
It's actually insane. And I'm like, oh god, I'm like, poor Ash, man. I was like, and obviously the dog now has to be on mine or the guest's kayak. So we started off on the guest's kayak because, you know, I was there to film and photograph. That was my whole thing. I was literally basically paid to do that. And so I was like, you can't have a dog on there, you know, moving the kayak around. So the guest had it, and then the guest also a wildlife photographer. So after the first day, She says, "Look, I'm not being funny, but I've paid good money to be on this trip. I'm not having the dog on my kayak." So I was like, "That's absolutely valid." It's like, even though I was like I was like paid to film, I'm like, the guest is more important.
Yeah, you're an employee at that point. Yeah.
So the guest is more important. So me and the dog becoming best friends at that point. So I now have the dog with me for 3 days on my kayak, and into day 3, oh dear, it was our longest stretch, of course, of the kayaking. It was I think it was about 15 k's, maybe just under like 12 k's, something like that we had to kayak. And of course, we set off at standard pacing in the morning, and everything was starting off. I had the bees that were with me. There was these like constant bees with me. They were just obsessed with my like cologne or something, just like constantly. And it was like, just absolutely like insatiate. And so I was like, had them and the dog for company, which was quite nice. And I was going along, and halfway down, so probably like 5-6 kilometers in, the dog's just freaking out, and I'm like, okay, calm down. And like, the dog, it's just like, it's lurching around, it's going absolutely crazy, it's running all over the kayak. I'm like, what the hell is happening? I was like, calm down. It goes to the front of the kayak, looks up, bleh, six everywhere, all over the kayak. Just like vomiting everywhere. And I'm like, oh god. So I called Ash over. He's struggling along behind. Actually, to be fair, at certain times he was in front of me, which was impressive. And he was just like, on the like paddling along on this absolute ridiculous like air mattress float. And he comes along and he's like cleaning it up for me. He's like, I'm so sorry. He's like his dog, so he's like very, very apologetic. Ash, extremely lovely guy. So I was like, I felt super bad there. And it was like, just clean it up. He's like, I'm so sorry. He's like, it's okay. He said, but you're going to have to keep on going. Like, because it's thick mangrove either side. It's not like you just get off and you go into, give the dog, it's got seasickness or whatever, and you give it a rest, it's carry on time. And the dog's freaking out. I'm like, calm down. Shit's right down on me. Shit's all over me, diarrhea, just everywhere, just right in the kayak, and I because kayak already has water in it, right? It already has water in it, so I'm in like Amazon spring water and dog diarrhea, and I can't get out of the damn boat. You can't get out, and I can't tip the water out because I got all my camera gear in this boat with me. I'm like, oh my god! So I'm stuck in dog diarrhea for like the next 2 hours. And I'm like, oh
my god, that's amazing!
Freaking out. It's like, it's going crazy, and I'm trying to hold the dog whilst paddling, and it's an absolute disaster. And I'm like, and we tried to get the dog on the float on the air mattress, and it was the funniest thing ever. Honestly, it goes onto the air mattress. And just kind of like, it just kind of goes on and goes nope, and then turns around and runs back onto the kayak. And I'm like, oh my god, it's
poor dog too, right? Oh my god,
disaster. And again, it would have been a great time for the satellite phone, and we were like, oh god, what do we do? There's nothing you can't get out anywhere. So he was like, the next checkpoint is about an hour kayak away. Can you please get in there? I was like, yes. Of course, I have to. There's no option. So it was getting real hot by this time, because this taking some time, because the dog is, slowing us down a lot. And, it's open river, nowhere, no shade, no nothing. And it's getting real hot, and the dog's like freaking out, and it's trying to hop in the water. And Ash is like, don't let that dog in the water. It's anaconda territory. And I'm like, oh god. So I'm like, holding on to it, like, please don't jump in. And then I was like, I'm supposed to be filming this expedition. I've not done a single bit of filming for 3 days. I was like, what is Dick going to think? I was like, what is he going to think? But of course, eventually I got up to the the safety point, which is still about an hour out from where we're supposed to be. But, managed to get the dog ran around for a bit. It seemed to be fine. And, I cleaned all the dog diarrhea out and reset, and we eventually got back there. But honestly, after like 4 days of that, I slept about like 3 hours every night in like a wet hammock, and trying to do that, I was completely toast after the end of that. That was some experience, I tell you.
Wow, well, that's That sounds like a lot of fun. You really sold that to her, I got to say. Maybe Dick's like, yeah, maybe we edit this one out, but sorry, man, it's reality. That's the show. So that is quite the
Sorry,
fun tour there. But I mean, that's a hell of a story, right?
yeah,
That's that tourist is
yeah.
very
Well, the
happy
guest
that you.
enjoyed the talk.
What?
She enjoyed the talk.
Oh, I bet she
And the
did.
guest enjoyed.
I bet she
I
did.
had a
Especially,
miserable
like,
time, but
it's like entertainment for her, right? She must have laughing her ass off as well. Oh my god! Wow,
no, I
that's.
get it.
Do you want to share your Uganda one, or do you want to save it for another episode?
I'll do it. I'll do it really quick because it's not one that's warranted of a really long one. So I'll rip for it really quick. So yeah, just again set the scene. So we were staying in Queen Elizabeth National Park, one of the main national parks in Uganda, and we were staying within it. And basically that means like unfenced and we're basically there's a community area that lives the community that lives within this national park too, and they were all playing football. So I was like, two of the film crew who came with me, one of them I play football with regularly, the other one plays for my rival football team, so that's always fun. But so we did that, and we got involved, and it was a lot of fun, playing some football. The funny thing was that the other two people who came with me, Bailey and Will, they were able to shoot into a goal, and I had a brick to shoot onto, which was it was quite funny. So they had a full-sized goal, and I had one brick as the target. It was actually I don't know who made the rules for this game, but it was. Honestly, there was we've played a proper match against each other, full game. They had a full goal to shoot into. I had one brick as the target, not two bricks, as in make a goal, just one brick.
So you have to hit the brick to score?
You have to hit the brick, yeah. So I was like, this is crazy.
Okay, that's ridiculous, yeah.
But anyway, so we were just playing football, and we were having some fun with it. The locals, they're so nice. I'm in contact with a couple now. They're super lovely people, and
nice, yeah.
And then this elephant just walks onto the pitch, and we're just all playing football, and this
sounds about right.
Elephant walks onto the. Like, oh Lord! I was like, okay, so I'm there stopping, and and no one else is stopping. And it's like,
yeah, that's
okay.
That's the best part, right?
It's totally normal. I was like, okay, I forgot this is normal, because it's like they didn't even pay attention to this elephant. And then it was like the only time they paid attention was when the ball went near it, and it just completely flailed around. It was like just kind of went, nope, go away, and was just like, this is this is it, get out of here. So everyone backed off after that. But otherwise, we were just playing a full match with an elephant on the pitch, just happily going about its day. And I was like, welcome to Africa.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Where, just out of curiosity, where was that in Uganda that you were camping inside in Queen Elizabeth? Where was it?
I can't remember the part. I can tell you afterwards because I'll have the itinerary.
It's not important.
I can't
tell me privately.
I can't remember the lodge name. Yeah.
No, that's cool because
I'll
just make this. Yeah, I'll make it really quick. But I know what you mean about the Queen Elizabeth and the wildlife experience because we were staying as well in a place that is inside the reserve and or inside the park, and basically we were told to be careful at night. We have to walk because there's hippos and elephants sometimes, and we would have dinner at a canteen, and then we'd have to walk about 100 meters to where we were sleeping. And
I reckon we were at the same place.
It might have been, yeah. And so we were walking. I got stuck talking to someone. Really great conversation, but really late. It was like 10:30 at night, and everybody else had left. It was just me and him, and it was really quiet. Me and him and like 4 volunteers. And yeah, so we're like, okay, late. We got to go to bed. So he got out. He got his Jeep and he drove away, and we just kept going. And we're just walking along, and we just looked to our left, and like 7 meters beside us is like 2 hippos just staring at us. And we're like, okay, middle of the night, there's a hippo like right there. And I was just like, yep, just keep moving. We just keep moving. It's fine. So like, most dangerous animal in the country in the middle of the night, just right beside you as you're going to sleep. Yeah, that kind of thing is just having wildlife suddenly just be there is just part of Africa, right? So yeah. No, that's great. So yeah, this was awesome, man. I mean, that was a long episode, but a good episode. I really enjoyed it. Hopefully our listeners did. It was fun catching up and hearing about your time. And just for the listeners, like a lot of this, I knew where you'd been, but for the listeners, I haven't even heard these details. So that was great.
Authentic.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we'll wrap it up here. I guess the one thing we'll mention is I mean for myself, I'm going to be heading back into the field soon and within 2 weeks, and I'm not sure exactly what my connection is going to be like in the field. I'm going to be really busy, and I know for Michela, she's still really busy with field work until probably November. She's going to be busy, and I know yourself, you're really deep into university right now and really busy. So. So yeah, we're still discussing as a team, how many episodes we're going to put out. We might have to cut back to more like every couple weeks, but we'll keep it going for everybody. Hopefully, everybody who's stuck through this episode and stuck with us is enjoying the content. We're going to keep it going, and so if we miss a week once in a while, no fears. The team will return with some good guests and good topics, including, as we were discussing internally in our chat, we're going to get Dick on again soon as well. Speaking of as a guest, yeah, so I'm really happy with everything. It's great to have you back in the show. Hopefully you'll be able to join us more often, Nick. And I
want to.
Yeah, so we'll sign off now.
Thank you. I really.
Yeah, it's great talking.
Yeah.
So
can I do one last plug whilst I'm on there?
Go for it. Why not? Just go for it.
If any of you liked what I was talking about today, I'm actually going back to Uganda with Fenny and doing the same sort of tour in December 28th to January 8th, where we'll be doing wildlife photography in pretty much where I'd been. And so, if you liked what we were talking about and want to experience that yourself, let me know. I thought I'd do a quick plug as it was the guest episode for me. But I'd appreciate that, and let me know if you want to know any more. But awesome. Thank you, and really enjoyed that. Sure.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up then, and we'll see all of you again. Myself and Nick or Michela, we'll see you all again soon. Maybe in a week, maybe in 2 weeks, but we'll see. So thanks again. Ciao, everybody.
Nice, Chris. Thank you. See you later.